Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Can you see the zoom on the side?
Nope.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Hello, judges. My name is Min Nguyen, and I'm on behalf of the AquaFusion team. I'm here to bring you our solution to the microplastic pandemic. So just envision a future that every time you drank from a plastic water bottle, you're actually damaging your own body. Well, you don't really need to envision that future because that's actually the world that we live in. Every time you drink from a plastic water bottle, that's 120,000 particles of microplastics in your system already. And if that sounds like a really big number, that's because it is. That's around 4 pounds of microplastic in your system every single year. And they bring around a significant amount of health risks to you. One of those is actually cancer. This is the microplastic pandemic, and we need a radical solution for this. And that radical solution, from what I think, has to either bring upon the complete elimination or significant reduction in the amount of reliance that we have on petroleum-based plastics. So the main two things that we see right now are paper and steel. They're very cost effective in comparison to plastic, but they don't have the same physical properties that make them viable to our consumer. Now, bioplastics and silicon rubber do have those physical characteristics, but they're on the significantly costlier side, being nearly 12x to 6x the cost of traditional petroleum-based plastics. So this is where you get into algae-based plastics in specific. Algae is a very special plant because we can grow it in any environment very quickly, very cheaply, while still bringing you the same quality of biodegradability that we're looking for. But AquaFusion Bioplastics in specific does it different. Like I mentioned before, bioplastics can be up to 12x more expensive than petroleum-based plastics. And algae-based bioplastics sit in the smack dab middle of that at $8. 8x more expensive. So AquaFusion, we're renowned for a very simplistic process, starting at the top with farming and harvesting seaweed in a very sustainable method using no pesticides and no GMO. This is our heavy hitter. Step 2, the extraction of polymers using bacterial instructed cells. So the process of this is in the utilization of a process known as bacterial instructed synthesis. The way that we do this is we take our harvested seaweed, throw it into a fermentation tank with our bacteria, which is basically this giant soup, and our bacteria will cut into the structure of our seaweed and bring out a lot of these polysaccharides that will mix together and bind to our bacteria on its own. And after adding a simple salt water or seawater solution, they'll rupture and bring us these very valuable things that we call PHA polymers. These PHA polymers, once blended with our harvested seaweed, can bring a bioplastic composite in which we'll do some pre-testing of tensile and elongation strength as well as thermal analysis to ensure that we have like the same quality of plastic going around, in which we can finally start molding it. And there's two different kinds of molding methods that we use depending on what type of plastic that you want. Solvent casting up above is used for our traditional dry plastics and water bottles and regular packaging, all of that stuff. And thermofilming is what we use for thin film plastics. So after post-processing, we bring back our product to the user at nearly 30% of the cost of the industry average, while still giving you all of the key features of being compostable, biodegradable, water-soluble, and having the same physical characteristics as plastic. Now, experts that's already given us their validation on our idea, mainly saying that with economies of scale, we could even be cheaper than plastics in the future. Now, building our team is quite simple. We don't need that many people. We need chemists, material scientists, systems engineers, biologists, and farmers. And our implementation plan is even simpler than that. We start with a partnership from Acadian Sea Plants Limited for their supply of sugar kelp. Now, Acadian, they outright said that they're willing to partner with companies like AquaFusion to eliminate the microplastic pandemic with very innovative solutions. From then on out, because there's literally thousands of types of bacterial instructed cells, we'll have to start testing bacterial combos and test which ones yield back the best physical characteristics and the best cost. From then on, we'll implement firstly with food storage so that we know that we can hit the ground running and eliminate the biggest contributor of microplastics. And from then on, we can expand to the packaging industry with thin film plastics. So join us for a significantly sustainable future and eliminate the thing that we both over rely on that's also killing us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Min. All right. Take a breath. That was fast and furious, Min. All right. Head over to questions.
We've seen a lot of kind of reusable plastic alternatives. I was curious to know what your outlook on the competitive landscape was.
Yeah, so I was looking at all of these other companies and I was saying, okay, this is like extreme. They're already at like this level of production that we have to like match in the next 5 years. But I'm seeing that they're just plateaued because they don't have this method that allows them to enter through the plastic market in specific, which is we can just like gun through all of them because our method is so cheap.
Got it. And is the end goal to like, I don't know, take over like the Dasanis or the Nestles of the world? Like, is that who you want to compete with at the end of the day?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that we're not really in comparison to these other bioplastic companies. The main thing is just completely eliminating our reliance on petroleum-based plastics.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Min. Great energy on the presentation. When you say that you're going to gun through with them on price, what's it kind of going to take for you to get to that level of economies of scale to ensure that you're able to get to that low price point?
I actually haven't really calculated that. I think one of my teammates was very specifically working on profitability stuff. I don't.
Is your
Yeah,
team?
sorry about that. Hi. So of course, getting it to a low price point is quite hard if we look at the landscape of plastic. Plastic, the reason why it's such a favorable material is because of its low price point. But like we said before, the production of algae in general is something that we can produce far more easier than traditional petroleum-based plastics because the extraction process, the growing process, and even the production process is cheaper by a ton. Although there are some costs, I guess, expanding compared to normal plastics, the way that we can decrease this is by making it more normal. The idea of bioplastics in general, the actual industry in 2021 reached around 4.9 billion, and then in around our time right now, it's 10.7 billion, I believe. And by 2027, we're aiming for a 29.7 billion growth. And you can see how that can overall expand and kind of help us decrease the prices if the product itself is in high demand.
Do I have time for a follow-up, Stephen?
Go for it.
Okay. Curious, thanks so much for jumping in on that question. Curious if that's the case, why haven't we been scaling the production of this to date? Why is this kind of taking more time to be able to combat the plastic challenge?
Okay, I can take this one specific because it's kind of this like regulation of how we take in our method. Bacterial instructed synthesis, it's not being used in specific. Well, actually, there's only one case of this being used in bioplastic production in specific. And it required a lot of like nitpicking on the environment because we need the perfect pH level to ensure that our bacteria actually react with the polysaccharides in the right way. But I'm sure that there's a lot of like fermentation tanks and modifiers that we can use to make sure that this is automatic and doesn't have to be specifically regulated.
Okay, great. Thanks, team.